So it's been a while since that Sonic video, which really pushed me to my limits, so I thought why not go through a much harder franchise and give myself another 7 days to 100% all the Rayman games. And if you're thinking, well, Rayman is not harder than Sonic, then you're insane, because what Rayman 1 alone is one of the most unforgiving platformers I've ever played. And that's just beating it normally, let alone 100% in the game. So yeah, that's what this video's challenge is for you. When I told my friend about this challenge, his first response was, why do you hate yourself? And hopefully by the end of this video, I will be able to tell you an answer for why I hate myself. Anyways, let's jump into all the games that I need to beat to finish this challenge. So we've got to beat Rayman 1, Rayman 2, Rayman 3, Rayman M, Rayman Raven Rabbids, Rayman Raven Rabbids 2, Rayman Origins, and Rayman Legends. That's about it really for all the games, because there are hardly any Rayman games out there, because for some wild reason, Ubisoft still have the rights to him and are insisting on letting this franchise rot to death. Just like Microsoft are with Banjo-Kazooie, but somehow I have more of a hope of Banjo coming back than Rayman. Anyways, that's not the point of this video, but please Ubisoft and Microsoft, just give Banjo-Kazooie up, give Rayman up. To Nintendo, or give Rayman to Sony, I really don't care, just let him go. Anyways, let's jump into the rules of the challenge. I have exactly 7 days to do this, or 168 hours, and the time will be constantly running all week, because the days are kind of scuffed due to me sleeping and waking up before it's been 24 hours. So it's kind of just easier to go off the timer for you lot. I have to 100% the game I'm playing before I can move on to the next one, so I can't be jumping all over the place. And I can look at guides, but it's kind of a last resort thing. And that's about it for the rules. There aren't really many rules to this kind of challenge, but there's still a lot of shit in my way. Now, let's jump into the actual challenge, starting with the first game I went to, Rayman Raven Rabbids 1. So I decided I should start my journey by getting all the side games out of the way first, since they'll be done a lot quicker than the mainline games. And I started with Rayman Raven Rabbids, a game I haven't played since I was 9 or something like that. And many people point their fingers at this game when they talk about why Rayman's died. But you know what, for the most part, I had a blast with this game. This is just a bunch of mini games, and you go through 3 mini games or something like that per world. I'm not sure what to call it, but yeah, you get 3 mini games, then a music rhythm game, and then you get to do a either on-rail shooter or a racing level. And for me, they're by far the worst parts of this game, but they're still quite fun. Something I can say about this game is 100% completion is extremely easy, because basically you just need to do each minigame and win them, and that counts towards your 100%, and that's really it. So I just played through the game, enjoying my time. My favourite minigame is probably the first minigame of the challenge, where you run with a present and drop it off to a rabbit and then it explodes. I don't know why, but I remembered that one since I was a kid. And my least favourite one is the flying one, where you pick up the pigs and drop them off in the pen. Oh, also, I couldn't play this game with a controller, so I had to play it with mouse and keyboard, which sometimes made it easier, and sometimes it made it stupidly hard. But before I knew it, the game was closing out, on a very unsatisfying note where Rayman realises he's forgot Glowbox's kids in the prison area, and then he gets stuck and it just ends. It was really jarring, and I actually had to Google if there was more that I missed. But, you know, it was really shocking because there wasn't any more to the game than that. I finished Rayman Raven Rabbids in 3 hours and 46 minutes, and I had a blast with it, mainly because it was blocking me from actually getting started on Rayman 1. The music in this game as well was really good. Unfortunately, I can't show it due to most of it being licensed, but yeah, overall I'd give Rayman Raven Rabbids a 7 out of 10. It's a really fun collection of minigames, and what it tries to do, it does really well, so you can't complain. So you might find it a bit weird how you're looking at Rayman M at the moment and not Rayman Raven Rabbids 2, but that's because I spent ages trying to get my shitting Wii to work properly for the recording, and it didn't, so I tried to figure ways around it, but just couldn't actually figure anything out. So I'm really sorry if you only came for Rayman Raven Rabbids 2, but for now it just isn't doable, so let's just jump into Rayman M. I played so much Rayman M back in the day. I'm not sure why, but I remember playing so much of it. But when it comes to the actual game, I can't recall almost anything about it. But to 100% this game, you've got to beat all 3 challenges on each level, and then get to the final 3 levels and beat them. So when you put it like that, it really isn't that hard. But put it into practice is so annoying. When I started the game, I was actually kind of having fun with it, with the game being incredibly simple, which is fine because that means there isn't much to learn about it. Well, there kind of is, but I'll get to that later. To begin with, I was kind of just blasting through each level pretty quickly without really thinking about anything. For the left levels, you got races, time attack and lum mode, where you got to collect all the lums and race someone or against the clock. Then the levels on the right, you got to touch the glowing thing to get a point. You got free for all, and you've got capture the flag, and that's it. You just keep doing them modes on repeat until you beat the game. There isn't much change to what you're doing, especially for the PvP modes, but at least with the races, the courses are a lot different depending on which ones you're doing. Anyways, by the middle of the game, I was sick of playing it. It might just be because how long I've sat there and played today, but yeah, I really wasn't feeling it anymore and wanted to get on with the actual games now. I wish I could say more about the game, but there really isn't much to say about this game. It's just incredibly easy. Well, until the final race challenge, where you have to beat all the different racetracks in a short amount of time dedicated to each map, and it's so incredibly unforgiving to the point where the game went from a piece of piss to hell in just one level. My goal for day one was to finish Rayman Raving Rabbids and Rayman M, and just because of this single level, it stopped me dead in my track due to the amount of time I've been playing. I was just making stupid decisions, missing basic jumps or walking off edges, and the final nail in the coffin for the day was failing this close to the finish line on one of the races. So, just like that, I had to call it a day, failing my goal for just the first day already. When I woke up, I got ready for another long day ahead of me by loading up Rayman M and finishing up that time trial mode in my first attempt, which honestly felt amazing. And it meant I only had one level left, which was Survive, which I thought was going to be surviving all the battle levels in a row, but I was wrong. Basically, you just run away from this wall that comes at you, and that's pretty much it. And it took me a fair few attempts because I had no clue there was a way to sprint in this game. It is the dumbest thing ever. So basically, you need to spam the triangle button when you run over a boost pad, which was not told to me once in the entire game. So yeah, that would have made the time trials so much easier. But yeah, I guess I will learn this very important button at the last possible moment in the entire game. And once I learnt that, it took me 1 or 2 more tries, and then I beat it, wrapping up Rayman M. Rayman M took me 13 hours and 40 minutes to beat, and you know what, considering I remember playing this a lot as a kid, and I didn't remember any of it, there is a really good reason for that. This game is so horrifically boring once you do a few battles and a few races. It just becomes tedious, which is a massive shame, but I'm so glad that I will never have to play this game again. The intro cutscene is unironically the best thing about this game. I'd give it, I don't know, a 4 out of 10. It was a huge bore, but now it's time to move on to the game that I've been dreading the most. So for Rayman 1, I chose to do Rayman Redemption because it's the definitive way to play Rayman now. Because the original was a complete mess, as much as I love it, and it holds a special place for me, it's just such a rough and unfair game. Let me run over some of the differences between the original and Redemption quickly, not all of them, but a few. First of all, the game is way more forgiving with lives, giving you a fair few, and same goes for the checkpoints. They put them in much better places in this version, and they also have tweaked a few of the levels to be different in this version as well. And overall, it's just more fun, and you can explore them more, and you have more optional paths to go down and explore. It's just so much better, and you get a fair few of the power-ups from the start of the game, like ones that make sense, like grabbing a ledge, or using his iconic helicopter hair. So yeah, I just went with the Redemption version of the game because of that reason. But it does come with a few drawbacks, like there are many more collectibles in this version, so that means more time for me to figure out where stuff are and have to collect more stuff. And also Rayman 1 will need a guide. I went into this knowing this, because of the amount of bullshit there is in this way, like hidden paths and hidden collectibles, and there is so much bullshit. But what I didn't take into consideration is some of the collectibles were moved around in this version, so a lot of the guides were quite useless. So Rayman 1 is broken into 6 different areas: the Dream Forest, Bandland, Blue Mountains, Picture City, the Cave of Scops, and finally Candy Chateau. And to 100% this game, it isn't as easy as the previous 2. it's not just beat the game, move on, but instead I have to find all the cages and break them, find all the presents and hit them, and find all the hat tokens and collect them. Now, I'm pretty sure most of this was added into Rayman Redemption, but it's the price I have to pay for playing this version of the game. And obviously, I still have to beat the game, and that on its own is a journey. But let's start from the start. Dream Forest is actually a great intro to the game. It teaches you all the moves you have at your disposal, and also teaches you very, very early on that you cannot 100% most levels without backtracking once you've progressed later into the game and got a new power-up. But yeah, Dream Forest is a fantastic part of Rayman, and it also has a memorable boss fight with the mosquito, which if you've played this game, you will remember. Even though it isn't hard in the slightest, it also sets up something common in the franchise, the mosquito. Something unfortunate about me is if I saw a cage, I was insistent on trying to get it, which this early on, I really shouldn't have been, and I'll show you why later. Something else these intro levels teach you is something that pretty much turns this game from a near masterpiece to a grueling slog of trial and error. Pop-in enemies and crates. So it's just as it sounds. When you go over an area, sometimes an enemy will spawn behind you, above you, in front of you, below you, wherever it wants. And while that is quite annoying, something much worse can happen. A cage could also do the same, but it won't be on your screen. It could be back at the start of the level, or the end of the level, or hidden in a part of the level where it really just ruins the experience, because you'll hear it pop in, I think, but unfortunately, there's so many different paths and hidden areas to the cages that can also be hidden until you walk over these areas. And most of the time, there is no indication of where these areas are. You're kind of just, on your own. You have to just know where it is, which really sucks. Dream Forest is still a great area and tons of fun. As is the next area, Bandland. The levels I mainly remember as a child was Bandland, and weirdly enough, one of the enemies used to give me nightmares, and I have no clue why when I see it. It's these weird eyes in the walls, and yeah, I have no clue why this gave me nightmares, but it did, so let's move on. So Bandland introduced me into using momentum to clear jumps from slippy slopes, and also something that became somewhat of a staple of the series is Mini Rayman, where you just become really small and can get into different areas that you couldn't as regular Rayman. And for the most part, I really liked everything in this world. Everything it had to offer was great, and the theme is pretty memorable, being built up of different instruments. But unfortunately, from here, the game slowly pushes more and more into the unfair territory, especially when it comes to finding the cages, where you will just plummet into the abyss and die because you had to guess if there was a cage in the abyss or not. Because sometimes they might have a cage in there, so, you might think something's pretty suspicious about a drop, jump into it, dead, that's it. And then you'll have to do it again as soon as you suspect somewhere else. Blue Mountains isn't exactly unfun, it's just where the game does start to have a fall off with awkward jumps, but I still had a good time in it. These levels are pretty much what you expect. You're in a mountain range or in the side of a mountain, and the level design doesn't disappoint actually, and it's something I have to give this game. I know I'm playing the remade version of it, but it still holds up amazingly, and the original does. The graphics for this game is, they really are something good, and every single theme for the most part is great. The next area is Picture City, and you know what, I actually enjoyed this more than the Blue Mountains, mainly because of the atmosphere and design of the levels. I'm a huge fan of these, but there is still more clumsy platforming and level design, but there isn't exactly much more to it than that. Then you've got the Cave of Scops, which is actually the worst area in the game. Only bad level design, like awful level design, in my opinion, is in the Cave of Scops. Yeah, Scops. And it made me have such a bad time. They had a little mechanic in where Rayman's fist is like a light, and it just isn't fun. And also, this is where I made a little mistake, where I went back and tried to do some cleanup, completely wasting time because I had no clue that if I went forward just a little bit more, I would have unlocked an item in the shop that shows me where all the collectibles are. So yeah, that was great, and that helped me so much once I did find it, but I already wasted so much time. So once I did get there, I went back and redid literally almost every level just to clean up on missed collectibles before moving forward. I was trying to follow a guide, but the guide was so off because of the redemption version, and I couldn't find a guide for the redemption version. And once I cleared up all the collectible grind, I called it there for the day. When I woke up, I got straight onto Rayman, to what I thought would be a quick cleanup, but God, I was wrong. So basically, in Rayman Redemption, they added new bosses, which I knew was a thing, but I had no clue that there was an entire new world to get through. Playtopia, and I mean this in the kindest way possible, I really, really hated this world. And I thought it was the weakest by far. One of the levels in this game was based around the game Rayman Maths, and as a cool reference as that is, it just wasn't fun in the slightest. The boss was pretty cool at the end, but yeah, no, this wasn't fun. And some of the cages in this world was actually the worst ones in the entire game to get by using this bouncing momentum, which is fine, but not having a way to reset the ball if you miss is incredibly stupid. So I had to kill myself over and over and over again. Then once I got that done, I finally moved on to Candy Chateau, which, if I'm not mistaken, in the original Rayman was just one level and the final boss, but in this game it's a whole world, so that's always fun when you're trying to finish stuff as quick as possible. And the levels in it were actually fine, a lot of trial and error due to one of the levels having Dark Rayman, and if he hits you it's one hit kill, and obviously there were hidden triggers everywhere in the levels. For a final world, I quite enjoyed it, considering a couple of the worlds that came before this I really just wasn't having fun anymore. Well, I do like the boss fight where you fight all the previous bosses in one, it just didn't feel like a final boss in the original. Luckily, in this version, they made it harder, then gave you 2 actual Mr. Dark boss fights that were actually really good and fun to do, even if it did give me my first game over. And I finally then finished all of that and got all the cages present and tokens. There was actually one more level because this game refuses to end. Dark Legacy, a little bonus for getting 100%, compiled to be the hardest couple of levels in the game, and it does live up to that, but thankfully they do give you a present at the end of the level for free, which I was happy about. And then once that was finally finished, I had 100%ed Rayman 1 or Rayman Redemption, and it took me way longer than I ever intended for it to take me. It took me 23 hours and 32 minutes to beat Rayman 1. Like I said earlier, I was really dreading this game, and it turns out I had a good reason. And that's not because the game is bad. In fact, I think this game is actually really good until it comes to the collectibles, which drag this game down so much. And it would be fine if it weren't for the sheer amount of invisible triggers that you should just know where they are and leap of faith jumps. It just really just drags the game down so much. But luckily, they had a tracker midway through the game, so that kind of shows you where the collectibles are, kind of, but you still need to figure out where the triggers are, which still sucks. So I'm not really sure how to rate this game, so you know what, I'm just going to give it a 7 out of 10. I know it's insane to give it the same as the Rabbids game, but in my defense, the amount of bullshit in this game really drags it down. But if you aren't going for 100% completion and just playing it casually, it might be so much more fun, but I can't really speak on that. Sorry if that triggers anyone, but it's just how I felt at the end of this game. And now I move on to the games that me and everyone else holds so highly. Rayman 2, Rayman Origins, Rayman Legends, and Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc. Obviously, I'm moving in order for now, from here to Rayman 2 The Great Escape or Rayman 2 Revolution. I played a lot of Rayman 2 when I was younger, and to no one's surprise, I never beat it, let alone 100%ed it. So going through this game fully was such a pleasant treat, and I really liked how they added a story to this game, and for some reason I forgot that they gave Rayman an actual voice in the games, which suits him so much, and I also really enjoyed the darker tones of this game. So anyway, let's talk about how to 100% this game. To 100% this game, you need to collect all 1000 lums and also break all 30 cages as well, which doesn't sound like a lot, but certain ones you cannot break until you unlock a power later in the game. And same with the lums, very much like Rayman 1, so let's get into the actual game. In Rayman 2, you have different hubs which hold levels in them. So you have to explore the hub and find the levels individually, opposed to the usual overworld map where you select the levels. And once you beat all the levels in the world, you'll get a mask, which is what you're actively looking for in the story of this game. And then you can move on to the next hub, which you do the levels there and rinse and repeat. And for the first world, I was actually having a really good time trying my hardest to find all the cages. And I was also enjoying the 3D environments to run around, explore and all that. And the movement in this game is actually really good, minus a few issues I have, but I won't bring them up yet. Something they added into this game, which makes it 1,000 times better to 100%, is the sound effects that they have for the cages. So when there's a tinsy cage around you, you'll hear a little like help sound effect. So you know you should be alert and look around for a cage. And I really cannot oversell how much better this is, because it's not like they straight tell you where to go, but instead they kind of just assist you if you're listening out and paying attention. I obviously couldn't complete the whole of the first area yet due to the Rayman games forcing you to go and backtrack to get collectibles, but just like the first game, I did waste a lot of time looking for lums and cages that I couldn't even access yet, but that's just a part of the deal, I guess. Something I also need to mention is at the end of the levels, you sometimes will unlock a different power, such as being able to grapple floating circles in the sky, kind of like Rayman M, those circles, or Rayman 1 actually. Or when you get the rain mask, you can make mushrooms grow so you can reach areas you couldn't before. The levels in the second hub were a lot more mixed with me. There were some great ones, but there were some that just didn't hit with me, especially the one where you go over the water while attached to like the Loch Ness monster thing. It just controlled so much worse than the main game. Those mechanics just didn't feel good, it felt horrible. And sometimes it just snapped me into certain death if I slightly veered off course, but other than that it was fine. And for the final hub, they might have been my favourite levels, being quite hard and also fair. While there were only 3 different hubs, there were 4 masks. It's just there is a different part of the final hub for the last few levels, and before no time I was actually doing the final boss, but this is where I made a big mistake because I wasn't actively saving the game and I'm not sure why I wasn't. I went and challenged the final boss, which was actually pretty fun. It wasn't anything amazing, and I would say it was a lot worse than Rayman 1's final boss, well, at least Redemption's final boss. But it was still pretty good. But when I beat him, after I beat him, due to my lack of saving, it took away a lot of my progress and cleanup of levels that I'd previously done. So that really pissed me off. So now I still had a lot of cleanup to do, which was starting to get on my nerves at this point. I was slightly over this game at this point due to losing so much progress for no reason. And the time was starting to rack up. But I pushed through for a little while until I had almost nothing left to do. Then I decided I've been playing for far too long, so I just went to bed. When I woke up, I finished up the rest of Rayman 2, which was very, very little, so I just pushed through that for a little while before seeing that beautiful 100%. It took me 52 hours and 45 minutes to beat Rayman 2, and let me just make sure this is very clear, this game is amazing. So because I actually really enjoyed this game, I'm going to start with the stuff I didn't like first, because there's a lot less stuff I disliked than liked about this game. So let's start with the combat. So most people know Rayman due to the lack of his limbs, so him throwing his hands out away from himself for combat and different skills and all that. But in this game, there is a massive issue lacking with that. And instead of Rayman throwing away his hands and throwing his fists at people, instead of that you throw around these power balls at enemies, which just doesn't really feel right at all. As all the combat in this game now is straight range, not as in range as in throwing your fist, but instead you're just throwing bullets kind of thing, and it kind of takes away from the whole identity of Rayman. And oh my god, that stupid issue I had where it completely reset me after the final boss, I don't know why it didn't just plop me down in the final hub again and let me carry on. Instead, it just started me from my last save, which was ages ago. I'm not sure whose idea that was, but that might be in the top 5 worst ideas ever after letting Microsoft buy out Rareware. That, to be honest, is my only real dislikes in the game. There are things I'm conflicted on, which I will talk about now, starting with the levels. I know the game has much more of a serious tone to it, but all the levels started to kind of feel samey after the first 9 or 8. They didn't really mix stuff up, so that was kind of a shame, but it wasn't too bad because they were still sticking with the tone of the game, which I can respect. It just felt like something was missing, but I'm not sure what. Now, let's talk about what I did like about the game. The story for a Rayman game was actually really enjoyable, and the more like dark, serious setting really helped it in that aspect. I actually really liked Rayman's personality in this game as well. The soundtrack's okay, nothing amazing, but it's pretty good. I could keep going, but this isn't a Rayman 2 review. Maybe one day though, who knows. Overall, I'll give this game a 8.5 out of 10. I had a great time with it, and the only reason I got really sick of it was because of the marathon and the loss of progress. Other than that, it was a great game with very few flaws sprinkled in here and there. After I finished up Rayman 2, instead of jumping to 3 like I planned, I thought now would be the perfect time to take a little break from the 3D duology and start with the other duology, and loaded up Rayman Origins. Rayman Origins I remember a lot of, but not everything, because I was much more of a Legends person, but both are terrific games, and what I love about Origins is it truly is a throwback to Rayman's Origins, being a 2D platformer with a bunch of different themed worlds and gimmicks going on in it. But as much as I like this game, when I was younger I never really collected all the collectibles to 100% this game, because there were a lot of different things to do and get. I wasn't really willing to punish myself that much as a child or teenager I guess at the time. So let's quickly talk about what you need to do to 100% Rayman Origins. Starting off with the classic breaking of the cages to free all the teensies. So first off, you need to free all 246 teensies from their cages, which sometimes can be little shits to find. Then you'll have to collect all 10 skull teeth by finishing a world and chasing after a chest, then breaking into the chest and you get little teeth. In each level as well, you need to find enough lums to get a golden lum medal in each level, which requires near perfect platforming and timing in some levels. And finally, you need to beat Land of the Livid Dead, and then that is 100%. So now let's jump into the game. Rayman Origins holds 8 different worlds, holding a few different themes, and this might just be a me issue, but the worlds really didn't feel very distinct from one another and didn't hold a theme consistently throughout the world. So that was kind of a miss from me, but this isn't a be all end all because this is a platformer game, and let it be known, this game's platforming is near perfection. It is so buttery smooth and it is so quick paced and lets you have creative freedom with how you want to tackle the levels. And like the Sonic franchise, once you learn some of the levels, the speed you can blast through them feels so great. And the reason you'll be going through these levels multiple times is because a few times you will miss some teensies and you will get to the end of a few levels without collecting all the lums that you need to collect to get the gold medal. So you'll need to blast through the level again. But with how fun the levels are to go through, I really didn't mind going through the levels multiple times. Other than waiting levels which aren't that fun, and that's not just a Rayman Origins or Rayman franchise thing, that's just platformers in general for me. Something else I love about this game is you don't need to come back later into the game with a power up you got near the end of the game to get some cages or lums that you missed, but rather you can get 100% for every single level right off the bat. Now I didn't have to replay almost every level because I was missing one cage or a single lum, and I just love that. I kind of just blasted through the first 4 worlds without any issue. Then once I beat the 4th world, another 4 worlds spawn, and then just went through them. But before I could beat all of them, I was getting a bit tired and felt like my day was coming to a close. But luckily, I got well over 60% the way through the 100% goal by collecting over half the cages and also getting gold medals on almost all the levels that I had done so far. When I woke up, I carried on playing through Origins, and again I was blasting through it, enjoying the platforming, and before too long I was attempting the Land of the Livid Dead, and that level was all of the hardest things in this game mashed into one, and it was infuriating. But I wasn't mad at the game, I was mad at myself for making the mistakes, because you cannot fault this game when it comes to the platforming. I was just making bad jumps over and over again, or bad timing, mistiming, stuff like that. And the Land of the Living Dead took me over 30 minutes to do, but when I finally did do it, I felt the most accomplished I had felt in this entire challenge, because it is by far the most difficult level in the entire franchise so far. I think it even dwarfs the final trial in Rayman 1 for me, but one thing that did bug me extremely is once I beat it, I got treated to an unskippable credit scene, which felt like it was taking forever. So much so, I ended up actually just laying in bed and was on the verge of falling back to sleep. And then once the credits did finally end, I just went back to cleanup duty, finishing up some levels I didn't do, and same for the cages. I was getting the cages and lum medals that I missed before. And before I knew it, I was finishing up yet another section of the credits to the end of the game. Something I didn't touch on yet is the use of bosses in this game is extremely good and memorable, which is one of the best things for a boss to be, in my opinion. And the same goes for the music in the game. I love the music in this game so much, and I think it's the second best in the franchise, but yeah, from beginning to end, this game was an extreme blast. It took me 24 hours and 22 minutes to 100% Rayman Origins, and this game is near perfection as far as 2D platformers go. This held my attention. I never felt fed up with it, and I loved collecting everything in this game. Every level's design was extremely good and extremely fun to play through, but one gripe I had with this game is the themes. They just didn't stick or hit with me, and it was kind of just missing that Rayman 1 charm like Bandland and Pencil City. Oh, and also I forgot to say, setting up this game with a PS5 controller was so ass. I don't know why, but it was just so annoying to set that shit up. It wouldn't actually like I had to map every single button out, and sometimes it just didn't listen to what I was asking. The actual graphics for this game as well are extremely nice to look at as well. Again, only being edged out by one other game. Land of the Living Dead was something else as well, carrying the difficulty of this game on its own, making you perfect it if you want to beat it. And if you want a real challenge, go and play that level, but every time you die, go back to the start and play it from the beginning. All the collectibles in this game as well felt fair to get. I didn't really mind having to get them. In fact, the opposite, I was having a blast exploring the levels, seeing like weird little pathways where I knew that it'd lead to a teensy, and finding all the different hidden areas and all that. Yeah, it was really just fun to do. Overall, I'd give Rayman Origins a 9 out of 10. It is near perfection. Like I said, I thought this game was amazing before I went into it, and now I'm certain it's pretty much close to a masterpiece. And I'm so happy that I've replayed it after all this time. I forgot to mention as well, this game brought back the mosquito levels from Rayman 1, where you're flying on the mosquito and shooting at enemies, and it's actually a really fun set of levels, and I'm really glad it came back into Rayman Legends. I also decided to take a little bit of a rest because my head at this point was pounding and I was starting to feel run down and a little sick, so I was hoping that a small sleep would help me out. It really didn't. My most played Rayman game ever, well, this Rayman 3 or Rayman Raven Rabbids 2, I couldn't tell you 100% which one. But this one, I definitely do remember so much of it. Again, I haven't ever put myself through the hell of 100% in this game. I've never had to do more than, I never went out and did more than I had to. So again, this is a 2D platformer, but this one is Rayman Origins perfected, and I fucking love this game so much. I cannot explain my love for it unless it's in its own dedicated video, which at this point I'm starting to think I might have to do a dedicated video to each of these games, like, was blank ever good, was Rayman 1 ever good, was Rayman 2 ever good, that kind of, a little series for that maybe, I don't know, it's an option. Okay, let's talk about how to 100% this game. You have to collect 700 teensies, which I was absolutely shocked at how many of those little blue bastards are in this game. And it isn't even just cages anymore. Sometimes you'll have to do invasions on a level where you'll have to do a time trial to save them, and sometimes in levels they'll be beat up by an enemy and you'll have to kill the enemy that's attacking them to save them. And then you need to yet again collect all the golden lum medals, for getting all the lums in every level, and also collect all the creatures by getting all the lottery tickets. Let's start with the graphics of the game. These are the same as Origin's graphics, but they're perfected. This is the best looking Rayman game. End of. That's it. It isn't up for debate. The graphics and design of this game is so good. And let's quickly talk about all the worlds in this game, which actually have their own distinct themes that are all amazing and unique. And the way you get into each world is so Mario 64-esque, where you jump into a painting to start playing through the levels. First off, we have, which is to be expected of, you know, a Rayman game, a fantasy world with ogres, castles, enchanted forests, dungeons, and the boss of the world being a fucking dragon to top it all off. It's an amazing intro to the game, and honestly, when we compare this to any of the other game's first worlds, it just shits on them so hard. And yeah, I'll keep glazing this game for the entirety of this. The second world in this game is Toad's story. It's so extremely Jack and the Beanstalk rooted, to the point where the first level of the world is straight up called Ray and the Beanstalk. There are these spiky beanstalk obstacles and a massive castle in the sky, and the boss is a giant toad, which again was a blast to go against. The third world, and tied for my favourite in the whole franchise, is Fiesta de los Muertos. I've butchered that, I guarantee. Which is, you know, Day of the Dead themed, with Mexican styled skeletons, luchadors, and a lot of food, and it's so fun to go through with enemies eating cake to make ways for you to get through the levels. And the boss at the end is a giant luchador, and it's like a kind of like wrestling ring, I think. Yeah. The fourth world is my other joint favourite. It's Splinter Cell themed, you know, Ubisoft and all. And my god, it runs with that theme and perfects it, with the stealth areas in the levels, or the enemies having camo and night vision goggles is just a funny little bit to me. And there are a lot of water levels in these, you know, these sections in this world, and they're still great. And when a water level in a platformer is good, it is absolutely shocking. It shows how great the game is, because, you know, water levels in platformers are renowned for just being straight ass. The fifth and final real world of Rayman Legends, Olympus Maximus, is a Greek mythology themed with minotaurs, dark creatures and stuff. It's probably my least favourite, but the final boss looks like it's straight out of Rayman 3, and it's just darkness itself, which, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is from Rayman 3. Now, I'm done talking about the levels and stuff because, you know, I got carried away there, and I'll talk about my journey with the game itself. I decided that I needed to do almost all of this game in a day because, you know, because I knew it best, kind of, and I knew I could 100% every level without having to really backtrack. So from the beginning, I kind of just locked in and enjoyed the ride for the first world because of the amount of times that I've beat each of the levels in the first world. I knew them fairly well. In fact, I think that's an understatement. I knew them amazingly. So yeah, I kind of just flew through the first world, and I'm not sure if it's just me, but I'm pretty sure this game is so much easier than Origins when it comes to collecting the Lum medals. And I kept just kind of flying through the worlds one after another in such a short time, enjoying my time with every single level that came my way. I wasn't really having many issues in my way, and before I knew it, when I was near the end of the game, I had a horrible treat in store for me. I mentioned the invasion levels when you need to go back and save some teensies in the levels that you've been to. Well, now Dark Rayman appears again and invades a few levels, giving you even more invasions to do. So I had to go back and do some cleanup. Then I got to my favourite world when I got, I think it was 400 teensies. The sixth world in this game. It's just a rehash of the final levels in each of the previous worlds, which are music levels, which have some of the funnest set pieces in all of platforming history, going from Eye of the Tiger to Black Betty, and, you know, other songs as well. But yeah, these are by far my favourite levels in the whole like franchise, or maybe platform in general, because of how fun they are, mixed with the amazing songs, set pieces, but the difficulty of the levels themselves. And let me quickly talk about, now that I finished the 6th world, let me talk about something that I was really mixed in this game. Back to Origins. Now, I forgot about this when I loaded up into the game, but when you get scratch cards, you could unlock a few different things, from creatures to lums to teentsies, or a Back to Origins painting, and these are just remastered Rayman Origin levels in full. So I kind of had to play through full Origin worlds, not all of them, but I think there's like 5 of them. Now, as much as this is just extra padding, I just kind of beat these levels, like, not like, what, less than 12 hours ago maybe? So I kind of remembered them perfectly, so it made it so easy to go through. So to be perfectly honest, I didn't mind that I had to go through them all, and they also played better than they did before, because, Legends is just the Origins game on crack. I got midway through all the Origins levels, and I was pretty much near the end of Rayman Legends as a whole, and then I thought, you know what, I've got to call it there, because the sickness was hitting bad now. I think I was just looking at a screen non-stop all day, day in, day out, and playing these games was taking a toll on me. But I came this far, I couldn't fail now, so I just needed a little extra rest before bouncing back. After waking up, I just had to finish playing through the Origins remastered levels before I could move on to the final game. But also, the positive is, there are no invasions in these levels, so it was literally, I just beat the levels, get the teentsies, get the lums, and before no time, I finished all those levels, and also got all the creatures from the scratch cards. And that was Rayman Legends finished up for me. It took me 20 hours and 16 minutes to beat Rayman Legends, and it felt like it flew. I'm going to give this game a 10 out of 10. It is a clear masterpiece, and it's such a shame that it was also the last one in the franchise after they hit the highest high of 2D platformers. Don't get me wrong, there are other games that rival this game in the genre, but they are also masterpieces, it can't be argued. The worlds are charming, the music is amazing, the gameplay is fluid and snappy, and even getting all 700 teentsies went really quickly due to the fast-paced nature of this game. So yeah, I'm not going to speak on it anymore, but my final note for this game is masterpiece. And now I moved on to the final game of the run, and most people's favourite, and I only had 35 hours left to beat and 100% this game. So I had no time to waste before moving on to Rayman 3, Hoodlum Havoc. My second most played game in the franchise, and a game I know well, but the 100% for this game is absolute AIDS. While yes, this is the peak of the 2 3D Rayman games, the combo meter in this game absolutely destroys it for the 100%, because you need to know the levels like the back of your hand, from all the yellow crystals to all the enemies, just to keep the combo meter ticking and raising, because you need to collect everything in these levels, including all the hidden cages, and also get a high score to get 5-star 100% in each level, and that is just a fun sponge. Or that's what most people say online, at least. Anyways, let's jump into my final game of the challenge. Rayman 3 pushed me to my absolute limits, is something I wish I could say, but instead all I can say is I've played this game far too much, and even played it a couple of times within the past couple years, so I know it really well. I knew what I had to do to 100% it. In fact, when I was younger, I speedran this game a fair bit with Banjo-Kazooie and the Pikmin games. Obviously, I lost my ability in this game to keep speedrunning it, but the other two, not so much actually. So this game wasn't as much as a challenge for me as any of the other mainline games. I had to do almost every level 2-3 times to get that 100%, but at the end of the day, it really isn't that hard of a game to 100% as everyone makes it out to be. If you've ever played a Sonic game and tried to do S ranking on every single stage where you've got to keep the combos going, like look at Sonic 06 for example, how you got to keep the combo going, bouncing off each enemy and knowing where the next one is and, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's what this is, but you also have to get 4 collectibles in each of the levels as well. That's about it. Something I do really like about this game though is its humour in it, and again the moody atmosphere of the game, which does contrast the 2D's like settings where it's all vibrant and snappy and all that, but the 3D games do tend to lean into a more serious, depressing tone, which they do really well. It keeps it up, but then in the actual game you've got Murphy who's cracking jokes every few minutes, and you know, he can be quite funny. But yeah, the levels in this game are really fun, the bosses as well, and also the mini games you get. Yeah, as a whole package, it's amazing, and from the platforming aspect as well, again, amazing, because in this game you don't earn abilities and, like, you know, you don't have to do a certain boss and go back and do all that, but instead you get canned foods which give you different power-ups, from tornado hands to piloting a missile or being able to actually fly, and it's just a blast to go through. And I know this is the most talked about game in the franchise, but that's just because it's a more refined and better Rayman 2, but that combo meter to keep the game moving at a quicker pace is the only annoying thing. So yeah, I was kind of just blasting through the game as quick as I could, while having, you know, actually a lot of fun. I was still sick of playing the games, to be honest, continuously, non-stop, and needed to end this so I could actually have a real rest and, you know, just go outside and touch grass. But after a while, the worst possible thing that could happen happened. My PC had a fucking meltdown for some reason, so out of nowhere, while I was on such a good track to win, my run ended in such a fucking inglorious way. I cannot explain how mad this has made me. Because I'm not going to lie and say I beat it, but instead I will own the truth about this shit show. I had to focus on fixing my PC, and by the time I got it back up and working, it was way past 3 days. So now I was back at work and past my deadline of ending this challenge in such a fucking tragic and unsatisfying way. So I can only apologise of how the challenge had to end like this when I was so close to the goal. So that ends the challenge, and I'm sorry if this wasn't the ending you expected or wanted, because it isn't the one I wanted either. But that was out of my control, and I want my videos on the channel to be as authentic as possible. I don't want to lie or fake stuff that isn't actually there, so yeah, I guess it's time to wrap up the video. Overall, I love the Rayman series, and it's banger after banger, and the games only get better with time, minus Rayman M, and I had such a blast playing through and 100% in them, and although it did take its toll on me, and I was actually sick of them, and sick in general near this, I don't know if it was them or I was just sick of sitting in my chair all day playing them. And again, I didn't want the video to end like this, but I still hope you enjoyed watching the video anyways, and I'm going to copy and paste what I said near the end of the Sonic video about how I'm sorry I haven't been uploading frequently, and I can't promise that I will do that, but I will be always making videos hopefully for a long time to come, even if I don't pump them out daily, weekly. Hell, sometimes I might miss a month, but just know I will be putting my all into the videos. And if you made it this far, please like and subscribe, it would really help me out. But more importantly, thank you for 1,000 subs anyway. I still cannot believe that we hit that, and I'm extremely grateful. And since I failed this challenge, I think a punishment is in order. So I'm going to regret saying this, but I'm going to 100% Celeste, which I've heard is absolute torture. So hopefully I'll see you in that video. I'll probably put some fillers out here and there. But yeah, thank you so much for